senior ministers fell, his words, disastrously short of the standards that the public has a right to expect of its government, and that lives were lost as a result. Does the Prime Minister accept that central allegation and that his inaction led to needless deaths?
No, Mr. Speaker, and of course all those matters will be reviewed in the course of the public inquiry that I have announced. I notice that he is fixated, as ever, on the rear-view mirror, Mr. Speaker, whilst we on this side of the House are getting on with our job of rolling out the vaccines, making sure that we protect the people of this country. And that, I think, has been the decisive development on which I think people are rightly focusing. And I can tell the House that in spite of the continuing concern that we have about the Indian variant, we are increasing our vaccination programme at such a rate that we can now ask everybody over 30 to come forward, Mr. Speaker, and get vaccinated.
Mr. Speaker, it's no good the Prime Minister attacking me. It's his former chief advisor who's looking back and telling the world how useless the Prime Minister was in taking key decisions. His former advisor. One of the most serious points made this morning is that the Prime Minister failed to recognise the severity of this virus until it was too late, dismissing it as, quote from this morning, another scare story, like the swine flu. Does the Prime Minister recognise that account of his own behaviour? And if so, will he apologise for being so complacent about the threat that this virus posed?
Mr. Speaker, I don't think anybody could credibly accuse this government of being complacent about the threat that this virus posed at any point. We have worked flat out, Mr. Speaker, to minimise loss of life, to protect the NHS, while they have flip-flopped, Mr. Speaker, from one position to another, backing curfew one day, opposing it the next, backing lockdowns one day, opposing it the next, calling for tougher border controls one day, then saying that quarantine is a blunt instrument the next. Mr. Speaker, we have got on with the job of protecting the people of this country from one of the worst pandemics in living memory, if not the worst in living memory. We have turned the corner, and it is no thanks, Mr. Speaker, to the loyal opposition opposite.
Another central allegation briefed overnight is that the Prime Minister delayed the circuit break over the autumn half-term because, quote, COVID was only killing 80-year-olds. Can I remind the Prime Minister that over 83,000 people over 80 lost their lives to this virus, and that his decision to delay for 40 days from the sage guidance on the 21st of September until the 31st of October will be seen as one of the single biggest failings of the last year. Now having been told of the evidence, does the Prime Minister accept that he used the words COVID was only killing 80-year-olds, or words to those effect?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we saw what happened during the pandemic, and particularly he talks about the September lockdown and my approach to it, and the very, very difficult decision that the country faced. And of course, this will be a matter for the inquiry to go into. But we have an objective test, Mr. Speaker, in the sense that there was a circuit breaker of the kind he describes in Wales. It did not work, and I'm afraid, Mr. Speaker, I'm absolutely confident that we took the decisions in the best interests of the British people.
There is no doubt that these mistakes cost many thousands of lives. When even a disgraced figure like Dominic Cummings is willing to own up and apologise, isn't it time that the Prime Minister does the same?
Mr. Speaker, I take full responsibility for everything that has happened, and I've said, as I've said before, and he will recall, both in this House and elsewhere, I am truly sorry for the suffering of the people of